because we're going to need to be hearing from you here in just a little bit. But I show that it's the top of the hour, and I know that more people, like that the participant number continues to climb. So it is like any good webinar. I hope you've grabbed some lunch and you're ready to sit with us for an hour and talk about this delightful topic of the aftermath of change. It's going to be a good one. I know some of you have been on our webinars before. We'll introduce ourselves here in just a minute so you know who's in the room with you, who's talking to you. This is a great topic. I think this is going to be an exciting topic. It's one that certainly everyone on this call can relate to. And I'm guessing that you were probably drawn to this particular subject. Just you can tell that the tone of this, you can tell, you know, how we're going to talk about this subject today. And Courtney Smock is going to be our primary speaker in talking about this concept of the aftermath of change. We all know what the word aftermath conjures in our minds. So we're going to unpack that a little bit for you today, and hopefully leave you with some things that make you feel a little more empowered in that aftermath period of time. So if you do have a question, for those of you who are just joining us, please use the Q&A. Use the Q&A to put your questions or comments in there, and we'll share some things. I'll be keeping my eye on that and be looking for some of your experiences, because we are not the only ones who have experience in this idea of the aftermath of change. So please give that a good workout. We love to hear from you. We may even post some questions to you during the session today and ask you for some of your responses and your answers. Right now, just this question that we posed to you of like, what is your experience in dealing with change in your organization? Just to give you a sense of the themes that we're seeing already are things like insecurity and excitement, some action, some paralysis, anger, frustration, rejection of the change for sure. And again, frustration. So there's definitely a theme that we're all sort of heading into here.
They
all
got
right,
it.
let's go ahead, Courtney. Sorry.
I said they got it.
Yeah, that's why we're here. So we're here. This continues to be a challenge for organizations. I think it's always going to be messy, but I think it's our job to try to sort through some of this and find things that actually do make it a little bit better. And that's what we're here to do today. So let's go ahead and dive in to our program for the day. So here's us. Just want to remind you, those of you who haven't joined us before, I hope we've got some new folks out there who are finding us for the first time and tuning in to hear what we have to say about this subject. So there's me and Courtney there on the screen. Also, in the background, you're going to maybe see some other names that are part of our organization. Kim Garrett and Sarah Gorsh are also here to support and help. They're part of our organization, and they help us keep these ideas flowing out to you and connecting with you and sharing what we know. We've started Slingshot25, Courtney and I, a few years back. Gosh, it is coming up on, I don't know, it's like 3.5 years, almost 4 years, and it's been just a whirlwind and an absolute joy. We started it though because our roots go way back in the fields, in the seats that you're sitting in now. We've been dealing with, with changing corporate environments for a couple of decades, maybe even a little more when we're being really honest. We've been doing this a long time, and we've seen some of the messiest things that organizations tee up, not out of any sense of maliciousness, right? This is just, it is hard. It is hard to navigate through a lot of people trying to work together to get work done. So we see all of these messiest problems. And where a lot of people tend to run away from those and want things to get better, Courtney and I have just found a niche of really diving right into those things and accepting the challenge of sorting through all of those problems. And we've discovered that one of the best things that we can do to help people in those times is to help them to think differently about the challenges that are facing them. And so we spent a lot of time just thinking about, how do we help you think differently? How do we maybe introduce some new concepts that help you look around the world, look at the world around you with some slightly different lenses so you can tackle things in new and more effective ways. So that's what we do. And we are always about, how do we give you one thing, just one thing you can walk away with that makes a difference, that you can use it right now today. So we're going to be trying to do that for you today in just this hour as well. So a little bit about us for those of you who maybe haven't worked with us before. Today, we're going to be talking about change, and you see that in the first box. We do change management, and we help with communication. We help to stabilize things in your organization when changes are swirling around. We've learned a lot about that through the decades, and we offer that up. So if you've got things like that going on in your organization, we'd be a good partner to keep in your pocket. We also focus around teams. Teams, of course, are the building blocks of all organizations. And, there's been a lot written about the importance of teams, how teams really should be considered the smallest increment of performance in an organization. And we know that healthy teams are tantamount to achieving anything in your organization. So we've got some things up our sleeve there too that help you with team performance. And then, of course, those of you who know me know that third box there is my specialty. I love doing leadership training. I've been in, I don't know how many classrooms. I wish I'd have started counting. It would be in the hundreds at this point of classrooms, talking to leaders about the things that are hard about their job and the things that might make their job a little easier and more effective. And so, of course, I do a lot of coaching in that space as well. So that's who we are and what we do. What else we got here for you? As if an hour with us, we know an hour with us is not going to be enough. It never is. I mean, who wouldn't want more of us? And so if you want more of us, you can see on the screen there. Of course, you can go find more of us. Everyone lives online these days, and so do we. And so there's just a sense of the kinds of things that you can find out there on our website. All right, with that, I am going to introduce Courtney Smock. Who's lurking out there in the background. And she's going to talk to you about the aftermath of change. Courtney, you've been around doing change stuff for a long time. And I'm looking through some of the names on our participant list today. And I think some of those people have ridden shotgun with you for most of that time. So good for them for sticking with you and coming back for me. But I'm thrilled to turn it over to you, Courtney, and so you can introduce this. I think it's kind of a new concept, and you're going to introduce a couple new concepts today. So hold on to your hats, folks, because Courtney's got some interesting things to say today about the aftermath of change. So take it away, Courtney Smock.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jackie. Hello, everybody. Yeah, new idea, the aftermath of change. I have been honestly, it's really fun to do something for a long time and find new ways to think about it and notice new things. And this word keeps coming up to me this year of like, change isn't the problem. Change is a problem. But what's really been coming to the surface for me is that the aftermath of it is what is the problem. It's the cost of we changed something, we didn't manage it, and we're letting people live in what was left of it. The path of destruction, the mess, the confusion. And so what we're going to unpack today is that like it's not like we can change things. It's kind of like if you were going to reorganize your closet and you pulled everything out because you wanted to reorganize your closet and you just stopped. And you never bothered putting the stuff back together. And then you ask people to live there, right? Wouldn't you go crazy? You would see frustration and chaos and just like this, right? Put it back, make it work. And so let's go to the next slide here. I want to unpack this struggle, right? This very real struggle of navigating your bedroom when you pulled everything out of the closet and made it messy. And we say we have to navigate it. Maybe we wouldn't have to navigate it if we had a plan and we told people what was going on and we thought proactively about the processes and the roles and responsibilities. If we trained people and we coached our leaders, right? What if our leaders actually sponsored the changes and they understood what was going to happen when we started pulling things apart and moving them around? Right. And I don't know how much of these questions resonate with you. Please answer them in the chat. Like, are you struggling with getting leaders to sponsor things? Are you constantly having to talk about the change and you feel like people are saying we're fatigued, we're saturated, we're fill in the blank, we're frustrated? Right. This is a real struggle. And ProSci's been studying like the impact of change management. How many change initiatives do they work? They've been studying for 20 years, over 20 years, and the data hasn't changed. 80%, almost 78% of change initiatives fail. And we let people live in the aftermath. We let people try to do their works, find success, find progress in what's left after we change things. And one of the things, let's go to the next slide for a second. Well, not let's go for a second. Let's go there for a few minutes. I want to talk about what's really going on, because one of the things, different things hit my radar and kind of stick with me. And lately I've been hearing the words and noticing the words change saturation, change capacity. We're change saturated. We don't have capacity. I'm like, okay, what do we really mean by that? So I'm curious, put in the chat, do the Q&A, like what are you guys struggling with? Are you struggling with saturation? Are you struggling with capacity? What's really going on, do you think? What are those things? Because I have a very strong belief that human beings are pretty good at change. We don't like it initially, but we are insanely adaptable. We have mad skills. We have the capacity to learn. And so when I hear like, oh, we're change saturated, like we're tapped out, or we don't have capacity for that, I question that a little bit, because I actually think that we can handle a lot of change.
Yeah, Courtney, one of the things that we're seeing in the Q&A right now is this idea of change fatigue, described as too many changes in too short a period of time. But along with that, there's a comment about, it seems to me that the biggest failures are changes that are just kind of tossed into the organization without anyone really know it's coming, or any, obviously what we call change management. Change saturation, lacking capacity too, and so much change with no mindfulness towards implementing it successfully. Constant state of change. People are doing a definitely change saturation. Constant change, and worse, leadership is taught that this is supposed to be expected going forward, but we are saturated. And so they're getting just a lot of, yeah, we're saturated, but that's how things are these days.
And I noticed, so you guys, we don't have the chat on for a broadcast webinar. You have to use the Q&A. So when I say put it in the chat, this is a Courtney thing. Do what I think I've said, not what I actually said. So put it in the Q&A. Don't put it in the chat, because the chat won't work. Put it in the Q&A. Use the Q&A just like you would chat. That's my apologies. So here's the thing I want you guys to think about and what these images mean. Okay. Change saturation to me feels like the smoke that suffocates you from a fire that wasn't tended. We are suffering from changes that aren't managed. We are suffering from changes that aren't organized. We are suffering from not caring about being empathetic and taking care of our people while we change things. And so we all have smoke inhalation. We are saturated by that, but it's completely, like, largely avoidable. The smoke could be reduced if we managed changes, if we communicated them, if we took care of our people while we were moving things. There will still be some smoke, and there will still be some frustration, and there will be some confusion. But we are suffering not from a capacity problem. I think we actually, I know there's organizations that are taking on too much. I know there are. But that's a capacity problem. You treat the cup overflowing, that's a different issue. Capacity is, we actually have this much capacity and we're trying to put too much in the cup. And it's overflowing, we're trying to do too much. And I think we got to take these two things of saturation, we're choking people with the smoke of not managing change, and separate that and treat that distinctly different from a capacity planning thing. Because it's not fair to have one small fire not managed, not cared about, not taken care of, and let the smoke suffocate everyone, and everyone say, oh my gosh, we can't handle all this change. No, we can't live in an environment where we don't take responsibility for the fire we lit. And I wonder how many changes we could actually handle, what our true capacity is, if we managed it. If we were deliberate and intentional, if we got serious about having our sponsors understand their role, make a decision, think about the impact of that, communicate those decisions, train people and prepare them, I'm guessing that we could do a lot more. We would have less frustration, less confusion. If this is making any sense at all, like put a, yay in the chat. And if you have any questions or comments about this,
So Courtney,
definitely check.
what I'm seeing right now in the Q&A, our chat function doesn't work properly for us.
You're so much better at that. I'm gonna still say chat.
Yeah, I know. Generally speaking, yes, that's true. So what I'm seeing, I saw this term. Who gave it? I got to scroll through this. Change rage. Who said change rage? It was in here somewhere. I've lost it now. Oh, Jen Morgan. So she saw this term change rage, which is really kind of about change fatigue or change or saturation. Yeah, I think this is a bit of what you're describing for us is sort of manifests as this change rage, is that when we light the fire and we don't take ownership for that there is a fire that is now burning and there's proper things we can do to handle the impact of that fire, we end up with people in this change rage saturation. But I'm also hearing, and I don't, as you scan through that, Courtney, and I'll just sort of summarizing for the rest of the group, I'm also seeing that some people are kind of onto this idea that there is a little bit of change saturation and change, too much change fatigue, and all of these kinds of things are being tossed around a little bit in some sense of an excuse. Now, I want to be careful here because, we're trying to walk this line of, it is a lot. There's a lot happening and it's very real and it's making people's lives really difficult. But when we stop seeing the nuance in it, which is what Courtney's talking about, that there's a nuance here that we sometimes miss, which is that we can start to get really comfortable to saying, oh, it's all just too much change, rather than looking closer and seeing that there are things that we can actually do to help humans we are actually sort of we're pretty capable of becoming resilient and handling a lot of change. We're just not tapping into those strengths we're not helping any of that by not managing the fires that we do light intentionally, right? There's such things as controlled burns, right? So when we're not handling that, I think we're seeing some people in the Q&A here agree with you, Courtney, that there's an element of a lack of resiliency and some sort of just throwing up our hands at too much change and kind of walking away from that. So we're trying to, I guess, bring both of those ideas forward and balance that message out here.
And honestly, I think the thing that got me thinking about this so much is I had a coaching conversation with someone and they're trying to figure out, they need to have some influential conversations with their sponsors about how much was going on. And their going in position was like, I need to slow this down. We're doing too much. Someone needs to tap the brake. And I left that conversation thinking, that's never going to happen. And it doesn't necessarily, like, there's areas, maybe you need to tap the brake, but I don't think tapping the brake is as important as managing the changes for the motion that you have in place. Every strat plan you have is a list of decisions to change things in your organization. There's not slowing down, that you have a mission for your organization. Change is required. It is necessary. It's vital to achieve those goals, to make the things happen that you want to have happen. We got to figure out how to move and not suffocate and frustrate and wear people out while we do it. And it's very possible, right? So let's take a peek at the change experience. This process, this is what we experience. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but I want to drill in on a few pieces of this today. Those of you that have been in my training classes or been on other webinars, you've seen the change experience. This is the anchor by which we explain it. So for all the new folks, I want to break this down for you. We view the change experience as an entire human process. It doesn't matter if it's a business change, a personal change, something going on with your family. Change starts with an idea most of the time. And at work, it's our strat planning sessions. It's where we dream. It's what do we want to have different? Where do we want to grow? How do we want to get there? What do we want to be? And the very first place the change experience starts to go sideways in our businesses is we're not very good. To be honest, we're not that great at moving from idea to decision. Like, we sometimes think things are an idea and other people think they're a decision. And sometimes we've made a decision and we don't employ sound communication strategies. And so either we made a decision and we didn't tell people, or we made a decision and only told a few people, or we made a decision And then other people weren't involved and they thought they had decision right authority. Now we think we're changing the decision. Am I describing your Monday to Friday or what here? Right? This whole there's just tons of opportunities that we teach in our classes. Like, how do you start to manage those decisions and get better at creating clarity? Because your organization, a huge responsibility of a leader is to create clarity and create direction. And the change process starts with getting those ideas moved to decision in a very clear way for your people. And then knowing how to manage that step of what do you do when things change? And I know that you all, if I asked you just to write down examples in your life today where you're either waiting for a decision, you don't know what the decision is, a decision's been made, but it seems like it changed and no one told you, like you are in some sort of swirl because and experiencing change right now, and nothing's even happened yet. We're already experiencing change and nothing's happened. The thing they might be deciding might be months and months out. So the change experience is idea moves to decision. And then there's space and time between the decision and the change event. So we decided we're going to launch a new product, but the event, when it's actually ready, might be 12 months from now. The change event is the moment the old thing stops and the new thing begins. And again, we are managing from a human standpoint, people's reaction to that event for the whole period from the idea. People heard a rumor, ideas in your work, they're called rumors. And people are reacting to that, and they're reacting to the decision, and they're reacting to the event. And change, because the old thing stops and the new thing begins. What human beings process change as loss. What am I going to lose when that old thing goes away? And we are attached to what is as human beings, and so we have a reaction to that. What we are managing in our fires is nothing more than humans' attachment to what is and the emotions that come up with when they're going to lose things. If people didn't lose things when things change, we would not even be talking about this. We wouldn't even be talking about it. So the loss that's conjured up, real or imaginary, rational or does not matter. People are responding, reacting, having a reaction to change because of what they're going to lose. I wouldn't have called this science change management. If it was Courtney's world, I would call it loss management. As a leader, if you can get to a place to understand what people are going to lose, you will understand what you're managing and how you take care of them through it. And most suffering around change is because people lost things that weren't acknowledged. They've lost things they can't get back. They're being asked to operate with things that they need to do their work. So maybe I lost my identity. I don't know where I work. I don't know what the sense of the future is. Nobody knows me around here. I'm not a subject matter expert anymore. I lost my process, my routine. I can't even get my work done. And I'm a smart, productive person who wants my routine and wants to feel good about what I did here. That's lost because we haven't even defined a new process, right? I've lost visibility. Go on. Think about what you lose. But we are managing loss. If people didn't lose things, I don't think we care about change that much. But when I lose things, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, right? All these things keep coming up. Then we've done all that stuff. We haven't even gotten to the change event yet. The moment the old thing stops, the new things begins. Most traditional change management trainings that you go to assume that everything just starts with a change event. Everything I've just said for the last 8 minutes, you're not going to learn anything in a training program, that I know of, about how to manage the decision-making process, how to anticipate loss, and deal with those things. We do talk about, in most trainings that you're going to have, what happens after the change event. So you're going to tell people, you're going to communicate things, you're going to train them, and this is where things get messy. The old thing stops, so everything that we knew goes away, and we're in the new. We're in the messy middle. And you probably heard, if you hear change, messy middle goes with it. And we call it that because it's messy. Our processes aren't clear. Our roles and responsibilities aren't clear. I can't get my work done. If I have a new job, I don't know where the bathroom is or where to park my car, right? Every decision all day long requires brain energy to figure it out. I want to contribute. I want to add value. I want to make a difference. And I can't get that done because I don't know who to work for. I don't know what buttons to push. I don't know. Remember my login, right? change, change, change. It's messy. It's messy. It's messy. And this is where the aftermath piece comes in of like, we just leave it there. What should happen is that we climb out. We set expectations with people. We define those roles and responsibility. We train people. And day by day, step by step, we answer questions. We build the processes. We make them more capable. People find their confidence. And we get to this place, the light bulb, where the world is better. Hi, Pam, preach. Where the world is better than where we started. Because why would we take this on if we weren't going to get to a better place than where we started? But as I mentioned in the beginning, 80% of the time, we start people in a place and we end them up somewhere lower. So we climb out. That's the vision. Go to the next slide for me for a second. Not for a second. I want you to go there for the rest of the till I'm talking. So this is the J curve. The J curve is as old as time. It says there's a point in time where we launch off, the old thing stops, the new thing begins, we fall into the messy middle, and then the fairy book tale, right, with the happy ending says you climb out and you get to a better place. Ta-da! Isn't that great? Except, let's go to the next one. I believe this is entirely possible. This J curve where we stop the old thing, we start the new thing. We know people, there's no version of the J curve that goes up. Oh, there is one. I call it the executive fantasy path. They get to skip from the current state to the future state with no pain, with not much pain or suffering. But all the rest of us, our productivity, our quality, and our morale is going to fall off into this dip of the messy middle because the old thing's gone and we got to go through a learning curve and figure out the new thing. That's the nature of change. It doesn't matter if you are getting a new job, you're getting a new car, or you upgrade your iPhone, you're going to dip. That is the J curve. That is the science. Not because we're bad people, because we're human beings and we know what we know. And until we figure out the new thing, it's going to be a little messy. But here, and I think it is possible. I believe it's entirely possible to climb out. But here's what I think actually happens. Let's go to the next slide. So the J curve is entirely possible. We climb out and we get to the new state. But I believe what's actually happening is what we're calling the L swerve. It's not a J, it's an L. What's actually happening is we are introducing change events. We are dropping people into that place, right, with lower productivity, lower quality, lower morale, and we're leaving them there. There is no climb. We drop them. You've been dropped. You are working in an environment without a clear strategy, without a clear sense of the future, without processes defined, without roles and responsibilities clear. You aren't sure who makes decisions. You aren't sure what's expected of you. And we just let you work there. That's what I'm calling the aftermath of unmanaged change. We didn't bother to do the communication clearly. We didn't bother with the training. We certainly didn't coach people and make sure they're okay. And then we just let you live there in this bottom L. And guess what comes? Another change. And we drop you again. Right? Because you didn't even have it working before the last one came. And now another one's introduced. And it becomes a stairway to hell of just more and more and more. And now we say, wow, we have change saturation here. Look at us. We can't breathe. We can't move. I'm pausing. I'm curious. Jackie, anything you'd add? Any questions or comments so far?
Well, there's a lot of comments in the Q&A, and I appreciate that. I'm responding to some of them as I see them. But Courtney, they are largely it's just expressing what you're talking about. They're seeing this all over the place. And I also get the sense that the participants on this call, the people who follow this, sort of this line, look for delicious conversation and insights on managing change, are people who care about managing change. That's who is sitting on this call with us today. And they are open to seeing the nuance of it. And so some people are sharing some of the changes that are going on in their organization and some of the ways that they're thinking about it. And So we appreciate all of that. And it's also very clear that you have a sense of some of the things that have worked. And I'm also kind of, the thing that's coming up for me as I'm reading through your comments are, you all are sort of hitting these, these blocks where you just can't get the players to play along in managing changes. We only have a handful of participants on this call that I know are representing really large organizations out there where there's a lot of change brewing. And I get a sense that many of you are feeling like, I know these things. I continue to study these things and think about these things and see the nuance in these things. And it's just, but I look around me and I just see continual failures to do some of even the simplest things of managing change. Someone reported, again, I've kind of lost the comment now, but someone reported of just, you're just going to send out an email and done. I mean, how long have we been hearing that is like the least ineffective change, change management technique you can use? But I think that, it's like it's just compounding. The people who should be managing the change are themselves sort of overwhelmed, and then they're not making great choices about how to manage the changes that they actually have some influence over, how it can play out. So I'm seeing a lot of that in our comments, and definitely we have a group here that is very invested in and very passionate about trying to make these things better and do the right things. When that J curve starts to slide downwards, they're interested in doing the right things, and then they just see the pieces all around them, though they're not being picked up, and people doing what they should do.
That's right. Pam, I love your question. I'm going to answer some of it in the next section. The question of what do you do about it, right? How do you shore up the challenges? The first thing that I want you guys to do is see the difference. Try, like with this conversation, put on the lenses to look around you and say, the pain, the frustration, the chaos, the mess, the confusion, the whatever that I'm in, do a little reflection. Why are you here? And is it the result of an unmanaged change? Guys, so much of the things that are causing impacts to your productivity, your quality, and honestly, the morale of your people can be traced back to an unmanaged change. And I want you to do that work so that you're empowered to talk to your leadership about, yeah, we're not getting things done because we never went back and had a lean event and fixed this process. These people still haven't been trained. They don't know what to do today. Right? Like you can put, I think the first time I used the phrase, put Humpty Dumpty back together again in my career in change management, before I was ever thinking about stuff this way, it's been 20 years. Wherever you are, you can start to say, do people have clear expectations? Well, first of all, do people know where we're going? Do they understand the decision? Do they have clear expectations? Do they have the skills and knowledge they need to do it? And are they in their hearts and minds in it? And if not, what do we do with that? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to see if there's any more questions on this, but I'll unpack that a little bit more in a second. Any other questions? It looks like that's
well. There's a comment from so Stephanie Kemmer. I'm going to call you out. There's a comment from Stephanie, who's a friend of the friend of Slingshot25 here. We have conversations like this, so thank you for posing this, Stephanie. That even when you know what to do. And I know, Stephanie, I know you've been through a lot of, change programming and training, and you're thoughtful about these things. It's still really hard to act effectively. So I just think that's worth sort of drawing out. Like we talk about these things as it's easy to sit here and talk about these things and look at some charts and admire, the reality of the situation, and then really hard to act in the moment. To actually be in the swirl and the confusion and to make deliberate choices that are effective. It's hard to do that. I don't know if there's any more to say about that, but it's just, I think maybe just to acknowledge that we understand that people stuff is hard. It's messy. It's not guaranteed. There's no single action that's guaranteed. So we can't give you that. Many of you have heard me say before, there's no consistent correlation between cause and effect when it comes to people. So I think there's also just an embracing of the idea that this stuff is, when we say it all the time, it's messy and it can be really challenged to act effectively. in the face
Yeah.
of even
And
knowing.
the thing that's coming up for me as you're describing that is what I said earlier about there's no way to flip the dip. Like you can do the best change management planning. You can be the most influential, caring person, and people are still going to be uncomfortable. There's still going to be a negative impact to productivity. There's still going to be a negative impact to quality. People are still going to grumble. That will never go away. What your goal is, or where you have influence, is to say, what can I control about how far people fall down and how long do I let them stay there? Okay, you are not, there is no world where you just get to skip the dip. You will have a J. There will be a drop. But conscientious, caring leaders say, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can so they don't fall too far. And I'm going to do everything I can when they're in there frustrated because they're not being productive, not feeling great about their quality, not feeling confident about their skills, not being bought in, that I'm going to help them climb out as quickly as possible. So we have opportunities in the severity, I guess, and in the duration. Like, don't let it become an L and let them hang out there in the low place forever. What are you doing to help them climb out? And you also have to accept, and I think I had a conversation, this is a long time ago in my career with one of my colleagues was a math major, which was hysterical because we do complex work. And so her math brain was really struggling with change management. And she really wanted the formula, basically the skip the dip formula. Like, how do I make this not be negative for people? How do I get out of it? Like, never. Never. You're dealing with human beings who are going to let something go. And the science of being human makes it impossible for us to skip the dip. But we can care and we can shorten the duration and we can shorten the impact. Okay. All right, so let's look at some of the skills that will help you do that. Okay, let's move there. If there's other questions, we'll take them too. But so here's how we navigate change. The first thing is to understand the change experience. Really, really get this, that there are triggers and drives in your change process that are going to evoke response, and you have responsibilities around them. You have responsibilities when you're tossing ideas around in your organization. You have responsibilities when you've made decisions. You have responsibilities as you prepare for a change event. You have responsibilities in the messy middle, and you have responsibilities and opportunities when people are climbing out. And if you understand the change experience and you understand those trigger points, then you can start to say, from a change planning standpoint, you don't have to be a change practitioner, a leader standpoint, I'm responsible for the environment in which these people work. And at these moments in the change experience, I have some things I need to do. Maybe I need to communicate a decision. Maybe I need to get in front of people at an all hands meeting. Maybe I need to sponsor, and invest in training. Maybe I need to coach someone. But there is work at each of those steps where we can assess the impact, think about who's going to be feeling certain things, practice our empathy, and imagine how they're going to be thinking and feeling, and then decide what we want to do about that to help them. Right. But the first thing we have to do is understand, what is it that people are going to go through? What are those trigger points? Okay. The second thing from a skill standpoint is being super intentional and taking a ton of responsibilities for making and communicating business decisions. And this is the most simple and yet stunning thing to me, because we assume, and we being mostly leaders who make decisions, that everybody knows what the decisions are, and we sent the email, and so therefore all the decisions are communicated. And it is my firm belief that most changes get off to a bad start because we don't do a good job of making decisions and we fail to effectively communicate them. And so then we ask our change teams, our project managers, or whatever, to run and catch up to implement something that, like, I've done programs and been the change lead in programs where I have 3 different project sponsors and none of them really truly agree on the business decision and direction. And then somehow we're supposed to make a change plan that gets people all aligned and adopted to that. it is a skill, it is a practice, it's a discipline. We have tools for it in our training class that say, here's how you manage decisions. You should keep track of them. You should know when they're made. You should have a communication plan for them. You should know what you do when you change. You should know what's in scope and what's not. That discipline, it's simple. In our toolkit, it is I joke when I teach it, like it's a really convoluted spreadsheet where you just list out the decisions and you manage them. And then you get to a place where you can coach manage up to your leaders when you have teams that aren't moving because you haven't made a decision. And now you can go back to that leader and say, okay, who's making that decision? When is it going to be made? What is the cost right now in our organization for waiting for a decision? And when they tell you it's made, they'll say, oh, they know. Then you can poke them and say, do they really? Because the communication of that business decision is not always handled very well either. Right? So that this whole decision skill set, are you managing it? Are you clear? Do people know? Do you have good discipline around communicating when things change? This is a secret. Like I don't know why everyone just assumes that everyone knows stuff, but they don't. And it is very like low-hanging fruit. I don't know if that's a tacky thing. Like it's get your arms around what's been decided and what hasn't. And learn how we're going to handle coaching leaders who haven't made decisions or communicated them to do those things, because people need to know where we're headed. And there's a lot of psychological impact on productivity about the cost of not having decisions made and people not knowing where they go, because if I don't know where we're going, I guess I'll just sit here, right? A lot of pent up performance and productivity in your organizations because of how decisions are managed. We have questions about that, fire away. The third skill, I'm gonna just like put the heart here, the impact, empathy and action. Change management. Because remember what I said earlier, that it's really just loss management and anticipating, understanding, and having an empathy for what people are losing. That's what the impact skill is about in change management. Who is going to be impacted? Who's going to notice this? Who's going to lose something? Who's going to have a reaction? And what are they going to feel and how are they going to behave as a result? And learning how to do that for your projects. Think proactively. Who cares? What are they going to care about? What are they going to like? What are they going to have to learn? What are they going to lose? How are they going to feel about that? That skill and that practice and that discipline, game changing for your organization. It's like baking soda on your grease fire in the kitchen right there. Just get in there and say, hey, you like my analogy, Jackie? No?
I was just waiting for a cooking analogy, lopping
Yeah.
off the ends of hams or something. It's always something.
Oh, yes. Always
You never
something with me.
know
I
what it's
like
gonna
food.
be.
What can I say? I like food. So I did one time my sister and I tried to make crayons, and so we threw a bunch of crayons into a Folgers can on the stove. It lit on fire, and so did my 80s t-shirt. So there's just a bonus story for you. Stop, drop, and roll. I've done it. That impact assessment process is bringing together different points of view. And some people don't want to do that because that's going to slow you down. You don't want to ask everyone's opinion. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You want a full, as much as you can, understanding of who's going to be impacted, what are they going to get, what are they going to have to learn, and what are they going to lose, and how are they going to feel about that? If you can get a good conversation, a good discipline around all your changes to have those conversations and understand the impact, then you can start to do the next step, which is build a plan to help with that. What do you do when you have an organization of people who we are going to change our manufacturing process and the skills they have today aren't going to be used the same way tomorrow? What do we want to do about that? What are we going to retrain them? Are we going to move them to a different line? What are we going to do? care enough to think through the impacts and then take actions to help them. Hey, this group, I think they won't care, but let's tell them. Let's just have the decency to send them a note so they don't send us hate mail later that says, you never told me this. And they write it like that with little font. Right? If we can anticipate the needs, be empathetic, and imagine what people are going to go through when we do this, we can do things. We can communicate with them. We can have meetings. We can do training. We can create videos. We can talk to people. We can ask leaders to have a conversation and tell people, thank you for what you're doing. We see you. We care about you. Keep going. Right? Change will get you into a mess. That's going to happen. Leadership will get you out. You can put things in your change plan that say, you know what? We need to ask leaders to do a health check on this team. Just check in. How are they doing? Ask them. Do they need anything? How's it going? And yeah, that might seem a little prescriptive, but what does it hurt? If you nudge people, they will do the right thing. Good leaders are doing it anyway, but some people and good leaders who are too busy will forget. Like to Steph's point, sometimes we just get busy. We know we should be doing it and we didn't. Put it in your plan to coach and follow up and ask and check in. And I don't know, care. What would it look like to take actions that people feel like you care about them? That you notice the fire caught, that you notice the smoke, that you notice the mess and you're working on it. What would it feel like to invite them to an event and have them shape that new process? What would it feel like to have leaders who say, hey, this has been interesting, right? It's rough. I notice you're really, really learning what you need to learn. Thank you for doing that. It's not easy to be in a learning curve. You got this. It would go a long, long way. So those are the skills. Understand the experience, manage the decisions, be able to assess impact, and build a plan that the climb, right? That other side of the J curve. Basically, we're gonna take that J curve, we're gonna take that climb, we're gonna do things that allow us to step out with intention, with a big heart, right? Anything you add or any comments or questions?
Sorry, I was distracted by what everyone was doing in the Q&A. Lots of good stuff going on here. A couple of things that I think are worth mentioning, many things worth mentioning, but we don't have time for everything. This idea about one person pointed out the idea, Courtney, that was interesting, that plan was the last thing in the steps. Most people associate plans with one of the very first steps. And so we're starting to understand that, you know, plans can only be as good as the thinking that goes into them. And so the previous 3 steps are all of that, what goes into the plan. And you know, I've seen instances, and I bet you have too, or you think about it, you'll notice that this is maybe what the challenge was, is oftentimes, you know, people expect plans to be built before decisions are made. It happens all the time. It happens, and it sounds ridiculous when you say it, because of course it's not driven by maliciousness. It's just driven by this idea that we can start to move out and bring people along while there's still, you know, decisions just dangling all over the place that people really need to start to settle and to understand the change. And then, you know, so the plans start to move out, decisions aren't made, and then those decisions may never be made or never circled back on to, you know, make them part of the plan. And also just doing the heavy thinking around the impacts are a big part of the plan. Otherwise, what are you building the plan for? If you don't understand what's actually going to be impacted by the change, what would the plan be? So I just, you know, it's interesting because we do see people just charge out of the gate with plans.
The reason I laughed so hard when you said that, I had Jackie mentioned that we've been doing this a while. So we used to do things on paper, right? And all our communication plans, we'd print out a spreadsheet of them and change management plans. And I used to make the joke that I was just going to carry one around in my back pocket, because most of the time before decisions were made, any understanding of the impacts, I'd be asked for my communication plan. Like, well, okay, I got one. I'll just pull it out of my back pocket. Like, it's insane. I don't know what's changing. I don't know who's impacted, but I was supposed to produce a communication plan and a change plan. They didn't call them change plans, then they just asked for a communication plan. There's a question, if I don't answer this, because I don't have a lot of context, who's Courtney referring to in the impact assessment? The impact assessment process that I teach, one of the first step is figuring out the who. So you look at your change, you say what's changing, get the context for that, and then you take your group through a process to figure out who will be impacted, how will they be impacted, and you dig all that information up. So that's part of what I teach in the impact assessment skill process. So if that's not enough answer there, you can ask the question again. I have to defer a little bit. Okay, so speaking of teaching, let's go to the next part. We are doing a navigating change masterclass. I have found that one of my favorite things, and I love seeing so many of you on this call, one of my favorite things in the world is teaching people to do this. And we are doing a class, a master class, where we're going to teach these skills. It is designed as 4 training sessions. So I'm going to teach you, like, unpack all of these skills in a lot more detail. And change management is not a skill that you learn by listening to someone talk about it. So the course is designed with instruction. So I'll teach you some stuff, and then labs, because you got to practice and you got to go do it and you got to have the conversations and go out, as Jackie would say, go out into the wild and see how it works in practice. So it's a class, lab, and then you also, everyone who goes to the class also gets a coaching session with me, because being a change person requires a lot of I would say acknowledgement and validation, right? Like, is this normal? Is this real? These people are doing this. That seems odd. Yeah, no, that happens all the time. And I can, because I have a ton of experience, I've been doing this a long time, I can tell you what's normal and what's not. And basically, encourage you and help give feedback on your plans and your actions, and even prepare you for tough conversations. Like, some of the coaching calls that we have when I teach this class are just, I have to meet with my sponsor group, and here's what I want to say, and can I practice with you? So however I can help you be successful in the work that's in front of you, that's what the coaching session is designed to help you with. We are starting this class in January. All the full details are on our website. We are doing an offer just for this group, because we know that you guys are fans of this. You need this stuff. If you and a friend want to come, we're doing a offer just through the end of the week, and only for people on this webinar, that if you sign up this week, a full price, that you can bring a friend, a colleague, a leader who needs to spend some time with me, for half price. So all you, like, I know you guys are just like, I got 4 of them. That's fine. Send them all our way. You just send me an email if you're interested in that offer. I'm super excited to teach this class. I love helping people who want to, they just want to put out the fire, right? They just want to breathe. Like, this is what we do. So if you want help with that or have questions about that, let us know. Again, that class starts January 9th, and the full details of the class schedule are available. With that, I don't know if there's anything else to add there. We're always here for you guys. So if you have, like Jackie said, we do coaching, we do training, we work with teams. If you have those needs, reach out to us. We're very happy to help you think through how we might serve you. So that's what we have. We have time for a couple of questions if anyone wants to fire them off. And if not, we will wish you all a happy New Year.